Excellent. Thank you for doing this. I
No, no, thank you
saw the film with Telluride,
asking.
uh, and kind of went in blind. You just the schedule works out. And you're like, I'll stay for one more, and I was delighted. I had listened to you talk a little bit afterwards, and was just sort of giggling the whole time. Like that makes complete sense. You would make this movie, um, because I think it's earnest and weird at the same time, and that's kind of hard to pull off. Like, you know, there were jokes and there were funny things, but it means what it says. And like when you're sort of starting the process, how do you know that it's going to work? And I know it's a big question, but the idea, it's like, okay, I'm willing to spend years of my life on this. But as you start to make it real, because in your head, it's everything's amazing. Like as it starts to become realer and realer, then you start to cast, then you start to film, then you start to edit. How do you make sure that you're still making the same thing that you first initially went, hey, I want to do that?
I will say one stupid word probably, but this is instinct.
Yeah, of course.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know exactly how it works, and I don't know. Sometimes they're asking me about the recipe, for example. If I have any recipe about how we can create all this balance, and everything is so balanced that in terms of working between comedy and drama, between about how it's a high concept, but at the same time it's so grounded,
Yeah.
so you can completely feel, and also it is something that it looks futuristic or it looks something dystopian, but at the same time it's so humanistic.
Yeah.
So I think that, to be honest, I think that it's coming a lot from, and I hope that it works. And I think that it's coming from also from my references and also from how I see life.
Yeah.
Because to be honest, um, for example, in the previous movie that was about memory and this one that is about love, they're asking me if I made any research or stuff like this. And I'm saying that the only research that I'm making is on humans.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to observe humans around me and I'm trying to understand them. And I'm trying also to understand how our society is, because it's an allegory. It's an allegory about our life. And it's an allegory about um, how we experience love right now, and especially through in the modern society about and through the technology and through dating apps and through letting an AI to decide for us. I know, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Uh,
Not great.
so I mean, we were trying to understand all this, but at the same time to make it in a way that it's not one or the other thing, because I feel that also I have the feeling that movies are tend to be only one thing in a way, and I'm talking that about their genre and how, for example, when they're very serious, they have to be very serious, and everybody's talking very seriously. But for me, movies should be like life,
Yeah.
and life is everything. So movies also can be everything.
No, I think a good one should be, and obviously you can do heavy drama, heavy melodrama and do it well, but then it's not even that you're caging yourself to one audience, but I feel like you're only exploring one thing. The thing I really liked about Fingernails is, it's not a long movie, but I felt like if the movie went on for another hour, there were 10 other things that could be explored because it like you said, it's looking at life, and sure, the reality of their world is slightly different than ours, but they still act like they're in our world. The world still appears right. So you're willing to go with them. And I think also, to your credit, obviously not an expensive film, but having the ability to go, well, if we make everything less, the love tester, it's a microwave essentially. Like we don't have to, people won't get caught up in how it works because you just go, all right, and you move on. And that way we can talk more about the why as opposed to the how, because the how is always the least satisfying part of high concept. The how is we made it up. Like that takes people out of a movie. Here, you can focus all in on, well, why would they do this? Why would you get a fingernail removed? It's the scariest thing I've seen in a movie this year. Uh, it opens up way more opportunities. So I think in a way, that design gives you more leeway to go, well, I have a lot of things I want to think about here. I can do it because no one's gonna trip kind of following me along. It's very deft, I think, as a maneuver in the film.
Oh, thank you so much. Yes, I mean, if it was a typical, and I'm not saying it in a bad way, American film,
Yeah.
probably the first scene would have started in Times Square, where everywhere it would be written all the big problems of this society and stuff like this. But I feel that I'm always trying to play things that are a little bit. Oh, I'm really sorry for this. I'm always trying to play with things that are a little bit more grounded.
Sure.
And things that they can create a little bit something completely, I mean, different in terms of how, uh, because it's exactly what you said. I mean, it's just, yes, a microwave. I
Yeah.
mean, sometimes also you have to cook in order to find love. So,
Yeah. Hey, listen, I'm down with that.
and we need it also to keep the whole film in a timeless feeling, and because love is timeless, and to keep only this machine as the test machine as the only technological device in the film, and make a comment about how people are trying to find answers through technology, and they're trying to find answers about their own experiences there.
You don't miss it too. Like there's no moment where you're like, oh, they're not on a phone. Like it works. We all grew up on movies where there weren't cell phones and there weren't computers. I was just talking to someone about After Hours, the Scorsese movie. Like it's weird and different. That movie can't get made now because that movie hinges on there's no cell phones and there's no ATM machines. All he needs is money or to call someone. The movie's over in 10 seconds in the current times. But you know, I think often you get pulled out of a movie where you're like, oh, it's a flip phone. Okay, what year was that? Or oh, that phone only has two cameras, so that means it's just for here. You're like, it was a time, and it looks like the late '80s, early '90s, and you know what? That could be 20 years from now. That could be 20 years ago. It doesn't take you out to think about the things you don't want us thinking about, and that's a restrained filmmaking technique. I think we see a lot of times if you want to go big, and the thing you were talking about, like Times Square, you like fumble it a lot. And I feel like it takes a very specific filmmaker to do that. And a lot of times people rush to do that and it doesn't work. Like I saw Poor Things like right after your movie. And if that was Yorgos's like second movie, I don't know that it works because there's so much going on. He needs to kind of do Kinetica and Alps and do the things where it's like this is all character and weird and I'm sort of introducing you to how I do things. And here, I feel like between this and your last film, it's an amazing introduction to here's my view of the world. Will you come with me? And if I keep going, maybe I'll get bigger, but also this is how I think about things. Follow me or don't. And I'm in.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yes, and it was, I mean, and also, to be honest, it's, I don't know. It's what I said. It's like I don't know exactly if there is a recipe or how you can create something like that. But for me, everything starts from the script also, because I believe that we tried with the script to create an allegory about our society, an allegory about everything, and also it's what you said about After Hours. I mean, I will go in a romantic movie right now, and I will say, for example, Before Sunrise,
Yeah.
that they met on that train. Do you think that if they were meeting right now, they would haven't changed phone numbers? I mean, they would have changed probably all the Instagram accounts, everything. They would have taken selfie.
Yeah.
They would have also posted it, and so I mean, it's always like that. I don't
No,
know.
100%. I think you watch those and in a weird way, they become profound now because you're like, I remember those times. The funniest line in that movie, Hot Tub Time Machine, is they go back in time. The guy who's from here, meets a girl and he's like, well, how, she's like, I'll see you later. He's like, well, how will I? She's like, come find me. And he's like, that sounds exhausting. And it's like, yeah, you had to like actually find people. You had to like actually talk to people. And I think the interesting thing here is because it's so much about communication and the fact that everyone is a little awkward, but they're not like movie awkward necessarily. They're people awkward. Jesse Buckley singing in the car, or Riz with sometimes making a joke and then being like, I didn't mean like backing away from his joke. It's very lived in. So even if the world was heightened, and it's only a little heightened, the people are acting in a way that's familiar. And I think that's the hook is you wrote characters that you want to spend time with, and no one's a bad guy. Like that's the other thing. You could have been the love triangle aspect would have been so easy to make one person less appealing. I think there's people who are going to go to this movie and be like, well, I like that guy and I like that guy. Like it very much fits for well, what kind of personality you have. We're telling a story about this person, but there's other types.
Of course, I mean, and that was the great thing for having Jeremy. We wanted from the beginning to create that complex,
Yeah.
and a complex because love is always something
Yeah.
like this. And also, we didn't want to give the easy decision for the audience. And believe me, it was very difficult to cast somebody when we had Reese because I think that Reese has a very strong appearance on screen. So when we had him, I was thinking, and then we found Jeremy. We're so lucky. I mean, I will say again something probably stupid, but if it goes, no, it's just a joke. But if it goes a typical American film, it would have been Danny Trejo.
Yeah.
That he's always the bad guy against.
Oh yeah, you would need it. Yeah, you're like, I cast a very attractive, nice guy. And you know what his big sin is in the movie? He's a little boring. He's a little more boring than she wants. Like that's and I think it's too complicated, I think, for a generic sort of romantic comedy, because it would have been like, well, why wouldn't you? Like it would never spur the like, well, what's wrong here? And I think in a more realistic movie, which is ironic that the movie about taking your fingernails off to find out if you're in love is more realistic. But you go, well, there's nothing wrong per se, but there might be something off. And I think without getting into what the movie says at the end, but like what the movie says about that relationship is also like, well, listen, there are a lot of types of relationships and no one size fits all. And like, I think there are people who could leave this movie thinking this is a good idea. And there are people who could leave thinking like, I don't want this ever. That's the only thing that you're like, why is everyone so into this idea? It seems awful. But I think as soon as we live in the world where people do a lot of what an awful idea. Everyone's doing it. So I think you actually hit on something. Like we'd all sit there and go, I would never do that. And as soon as someone's like, we should maybe get that done, you're like, all right, fine, whatever. And suddenly everyone's doing it.
It's very funny because the last 2 months almost since the premiere in Telluride, and I traveled in a lot of festivals. I met a lot of people in the audience, I did a lot of Q&As. A lot of them, they told me that they would have done the test.
Yeah.
And also, I had so many audience, people at the end that they were coming and they were telling me that the movie made them feel so many things about their own relationships. And the biggest reaction was, I remember there was a girl that she asked me, can I ask you something? I said, yes. And she was like, can you give me any advice on love? I said, no, I don't want to give any advice on love.
The movie's telling me I don't have the answers. Like,
yes, but it's very funny how everybody sees themselves on these characters and they can connect very easy. And I think that's what because you said it earlier about how I don't think that we try to create, I know that we are trying to sell the movie like a science fiction or stuff like this, but the movie is not a science fiction. The movie is not even, we are not trying to create something like, we're trying to create a high concept, but through characters.
Yeah.
And for me, that was the most important, how we can create everything through characters and how we will see the whole world through their eyes. So, and in that way also to make the audience connect with them.
Yeah.
And I know that maybe we will lose some people that they will think that, oh, but what happens to the world at the end? And because we're not showing any solution there, we're showing the solution through the eyes of the characters.
Yeah, 99% of the world doesn't know what's going on. It's not like we're going to bring down the company or the company's going global. Like it's irrelevant. It's not I think it's interesting that you made the one bit of technology in the film not necessarily good or bad. It's just there, and it's this like thing in their lives. And I really like that at the end of the day, what it is it's about, and I think the reason it connects with people who connect with it, is because it's about what's the other person thinking. And in relationships, at least speaking for myself, they don't go well. But you spend a lot of time trying to figure out like, well, what do they feel? Like, what are they thinking? And you can ask, but you don't necessarily always know the truth, because not everyone, people keep to themselves. And I think the idea of like, here's an explicit yes or no, right? No matter what you say, we have an answer, is deceptively appealing. And I think that's the interesting part about what happens with her in the movie is the I gotta know, right? Good or bad, I have to know because I can't just listen. I need to know, and it's seductive. I think that's what makes it the hook, of the technology. Otherwise, like I was saying earlier, why would people do it? Why would you give up a fingernail? It looks like it hurts. And boy, do you
Yeah,
make it look like it hurts. Jesus, by the way.
the funny thing is that and I completely agree with you, and also I am somebody, first of all, that yeah, I don't know what is going on also with my relationships and how they
Yeah.
are always so, but I have the feeling that it's exactly what you said, that she wants to know, and at the same time she doesn't want to know,
Yeah, I don't
because
want
it's
the
like
answer.
that she doesn't want to know the answer, but she wants to know her own feelings.
Exactly.
So, and it's exactly like that, because love is not something that we just prove.
Yeah.
It's not something we just prove for one moment. It's not just one click
Yeah.
and then that's it, and there is a result, and that because even the in-love certificate that they're holding at one point, it's a little bit like how the marriages, and when you are putting the wedding ring, for example, their finger, it's that people are trying to prove their love to all the others, but love is something that you need to work on it every day,
Yeah.
and that's what Jesse is missing in the film.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting to watch that. And I think the thing that, watching it with an audience that was into the movie, the obviously the fingernails are a big reaction, the audible, like, oh my God, it's kind of like watching a great horror movie with people. But also the other moment people really react to, and then we'll wrap up, is when they're explaining what the machine does and what the answers are, and saying that, like, if it's 50-50, it doesn't tell you who's the yes, who's the no. The, like, groan that you heard from people of, oh no, like, you could just have more questions, was what a clever little way of being like, of course it's not going to be perfect. Like, there has to be this quirk. And honestly, most people would end up with that probably and be like, well, thank you. Our check cleared. We got screwed. Great. Fantastic. It's it's such a subtle way of being like, you're never gonna know the answer. That I remember just like grinning, being like, oh, I love that. I love that for this movie. So I think you should be very proud of it, first of all. But I think it's destined to connect to people in a way that I think necessarily, like, describing it always doesn't help. It's like you said, people going for a sci-fi movie are going to probably enjoy it, but still be like, well, I wanted more about that. And, the romantic hook sometimes butts up against the sci-fi. So I think the idea of it's a movie you kind of have to discover on your own and have people explain, like, no, no, give it a chance, you're going to like it, leads to, I think, a very promising future for it, because it's not going to be dated. That's the other thing. It will always work because we're not going to get over this. Unfortunately, that is now how we do things. So I think you've hit on something.
Thank you so much. Thank you, really. And yeah, it's exactly what you said. And also, I hope that the movie will stay
Mm.
forever in a way, because I, I am describing it as a movie that probably we shot at the end of the 90s or at
Yeah.
the beginning of 2000s. Somebody put it on a shoebox, and it's right now people are discovering it,
Yeah.
and it's a prophecy about our life. And I hope that it will be, not I hope, I believe that it will be a prophecy also for the future, but I hope that, I don't know, I hope that people will change all these things and all these with cell phones. And I always believe that, and I'm saying that love should go through eyes and not
Yeah.
through screens.
It should. It should.
Unfortunately, it goes a lot through screens right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even all these characters are looking desperate on a screen.
Yeah. I
One the other.
No, I will never not think of, nobody thinks of Elizabethtown, the Cameron Crowe movie, but I like it. But there's a line where they have that long conversation on the phone. They decide they're going to meet and watch the sunrise. They get there, like 2 minutes, they're talking, and they go, we peaked on the phone. And I think of that anytime I'm talking to someone on a dating app. It's just like, I'm going to peak on the phone. Like, this is not the way the world's supposed to work. But listen, we get a movie like yours because of it. So fair trade, I suppose. Thank you so much for doing this. I'm excited for people to see it. It's kind of one that I think is sneaking up on people, because it tell you right, Tiff. It's just like the people who like it really like it, but everyone at a film festival wants to hear about the giant movies. So the smaller ones, I think, kind of get to sneak by. So I think like people in New York at the Angelica when they go see it are going to be like, oh, what is this? How did I not hear about it? It's kind of, I think it's fun when people discover a movie like this. So happy to do my part.
Oh, thank you so much. Yes, I mean, I
Pleasure.
don't know. I really hope that people will discover it, and I really hope that. And to be honest, as we were traveling more with the film, I'm realizing that how we started, for example, in Telluride, that people, yes, were looking for other kind of films. Also, the critics were looking for other kind of films, and I don't think that they get the film.
Yeah,
And it was a little bit unfair, I feel, for the film. But I'm feeling that this has changed completely the last month. I mean, and yes, and I'm very excited, and I hope that they will discover it, and I hope that they will feel all the emotions that we created there.
agreed. Thank you so much for doing this. It's always fun to talk about a movie I'm passionate about, and I look forward to seeing what's next.
Oh, thank you so much. I can tell you what is next.
Oh
No,
wait, what's next? Quickly, tell me what's next.
no. I mean, I can tell you
I
the
know.
very fast. We're trying to create a movie that we follow a group of extras, background actors,
Nice.
that they are playing, because right now also they will be all of them AI.
Yeah.
So
Certainly can.
yes, and that they're playing in famous movies from 1984.
Wow.
And it's about how we're all trying to be protagonists in our life, but we're still extras in this world.
Yeah.
And it's an allegory on social media and how people are trying to be from the background, in front, through TikTok and other things.
I'm in. I'm in. Someone write the check. Let's do it. Can't wait. Thank you so much, and congrats again.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Zoe.
My pleasure.